Ever feel like, your emotions are just running the show, like you're kind of stuck on autopilot? You know what I mean, right? Like you react the same way every time, even when there's got to be a better way to handle things.
Yeah, we've all been there.
It can be so frustrating. That's actually why I'm really excited about this deep dive, though. We're talking Mindsight by Daniel J. Siegel.
A good one.
It's like he's saying, hey, you can hit the reset button on those automatic reactions. Like you can rewire your brain for the better, you know?
You absolutely can. And it's not about, becoming some kind of emotionless robot or anything.
Right.
It's really about understanding how your brain works on that emotional level. So you can actually make conscious choices that lead to a calmer and more connected life.
Okay, so that makes sense. Now, for our listeners who are ready to dive in, let's start by unpacking this whole Mindsight concept. What's the core idea here?
Well, I think what I find so fascinating about Mindsight is the seeing metaphor.
Okay.
It's more than just, being aware of your thoughts and feelings. It's about learning to observe them, almost like from a distance, like you're stepping back and watching them unfold without getting swept away in them.
Okay, so it's like instead of being completely consumed by that feeling of stress or anger or whatever, it's like you're able to kind of step back and just notice it.
Yeah, exactly.
And just by noticing it, you get a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah. You do. And that space between the feeling and the reaction, that's where Mindsight really comes in.
Okay, so you're not just along for the ride anymore.
Exactly. And it really builds on the idea of mindfulness, but goes a step further.
Okay.
Mindfulness is about being present in the moment.
Right.
But Mindsight gives you a choice in how you respond to that present moment.
Oh, I like that.
Instead of being on autopilot, reacting the same old way, you can choose a different path.
Okay, so give me an example of that. Like, let's say I'm driving to work, someone cuts me off, and bam! Usually I'm hitting the horn, maybe yelling a few choice words I won't repeat here.
Right. Happens to the best of us.
So is Mindsight saying we can actually rewire ourselves to not totally freak out in those moments?
In a nutshell, yes.
Yep.
And that rewiring, it happens because of this incredible thing called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, okay.
Which is basically a fancy way of saying that your brain has this amazing ability to change throughout your life.
Wait, really? I always thought, like, once your brain was kind of developed, that was it. You were stuck with it.
That's what they used to think. But now we know our brains are way more dynamic than that.
That's really hopeful when you think about it.
It is. So through our experiences, and get this, our intentional effort, we can actually rewire those neural pathways.
Okay. Intentional effort, like what? So like what does that look like?
Like building any new skill, really.
Right.
The more you use those new pathways, the stronger they get.
So it's like learning a new language or an instrument. The more you practice, the better you get.
Exactly. It's like building a new mental muscle.
Okay. So every time I catch myself reacting in that same old, not so helpful way, and I choose a different response, I'm basically strengthening that new pathway.
Exactly. You're literally changing your brain.
Wow. Okay. I'm already feeling a little less stuck just knowing that change is possible. But let's be real. This isn't an overnight transformation, right? We're not talking about like wake up tomorrow and boom, new brain.
Definitely not. It's not a quick fix. It's a journey,
Yep.
A process of self-discovery and intentional rewiring.
Right.
But the most important thing is that it is possible. You don't have to be controlled by your emotions forever.
So let's recap quickly. We've got this Mindsight concept, which is about observing our thoughts and feelings with a little detachment, not getting totally swept away.
Exactly.
And then there's this whole neuroplasticity thing, which is like, hey, your brain is not fixed. You can actually change how you respond.
Love it.
Now I'm really curious about the how part. How do we put this into practice? I know from the notes you sent me that Siegel talks about something called the wheel of awareness. What's that all about?
Oh, it's such a cool technique. It's basically, imagine a wheel with spokes.
Okay.
Each spoke represents a different aspect of your experience. So your senses, your thoughts, your emotions, what's happening around you, all of it.
Okay.
And then at the center of the wheel, that's where your awareness sits, like the hub of the wheel,
Okay, I'm trying to visualize this wheel in my head, but how does that help when I'm like about to lose it in traffic again? Or, when I'm in a stressful situation?
So think of it this way. Instead of getting completely hijacked by those feelings of frustration, that urge to lay on the horn, the wheel of awareness helps you tap into that center point, that awareness. You're not suppressing your feelings, and you're not denying them either. You're just becoming more aware of them without getting totally lost in them.
So it's not like, oh no, I'm getting angry again. It's more like, that's interesting. There's that familiar anger popping up again. Hello, anger. I see you.
Exactly. You become an observer of your own experience. And the more you practice with the wheel, the quicker you become at recognizing those habitual patterns and creating a space for choice.
So it's not just about like, oh, I'm aware I'm angry, now what? It actually gives you some power to choose what happens next.
Yes, exactly. You're not just reacting, you're responding. And that's a really important distinction.
Totally. Okay, so this is making a lot of sense for like dealing with stress and those kind of knee-jerk reactions we all have. But I'm also thinking about how this applies to relationships, because in the notes you sent, you mentioned how understanding our own minds through Mindsight can actually help us understand other people better.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. You can't really truly connect with someone else if you're not even connected to yourself, right?
Right.
So that's where attunement comes in, which is all about being present and empathetic in our interactions.
Attunement. I've never heard it phrased quite like that before, but it makes sense. It's like you're tuning into the same frequency as the other person.
That is such a good way to put it. It really is like you're not just listening with your ears, you're actually trying to understand where they're coming from emotionally. You know?
Yeah. Okay, so give me an example. Let's say my partner's had just a crazy, stressful day at work, comes home feeling totally overwhelmed. How does attunement play out in that situation?
Well, I think a lot of times our instinct is to jump into like problem-solving mode.
Yeah.
You know, we want to offer solutions and give advice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm definitely guilty of that. Like, well, did you try this?
Exactly. We think we're helping. Right.
Right.
But really, what attunement looks like is creating a space for them to just feel heard and validated.
So less fixing, more listening.
Exactly. It could be as simple as saying, tell me more about what happened, or, wow, that sounds incredibly frustrating, and genuinely meaning it. It's about making them feel seen and understood.
And honestly, who doesn't want to feel seen and understood, you know? Like, that's huge in any relationship.
It really is.
This is all so fascinating, and I love how it all ties together, you know? We've got Mindsight, neuroplasticity, the wheel of awareness, attunement. It's like this whole toolkit for like personal growth and deeper connections.
It really is. It all works together.
Okay, so we've covered a lot, and I'm sure our listeners are like, their minds are blown right now.
I hope so.
But they're probably also thinking, okay, this is a lot. Where do I even start? Like, where do you even begin to apply all of this mindset stuff in real life?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting stuff, but it can feel a little overwhelming too. Like, how do you actually start rewiring your brain? Where do you even begin?
You're absolutely right. It can feel like a lot. But I think the important thing to remember is you don't have to do it all at once.
Okay, that's good, because I was about to panic a little, you know? It's not about overhauling your entire life overnight. It's more about, like, choosing one area where you're really feeling stuck, or you really want to see a change.
Okay, so pick one thing and start there.
Exactly. So maybe it's a relationship that's feeling strained, or a pattern of behavior you want to break, or even just feeling more present in your day-to-day life, you know?
Right, so pick one thread to untangle and see where it leads.
I love that. That's a great way to put it. Start small, be patient with yourself, and remember that progress is the goal, not perfection.
This has been, wow, such an eye-opening deep dive. I honestly feel like you've given me and our listeners a whole new set of tools, you know, like to navigate those tricky emotional moments and just show up better in our relationships.
Me too. And you know what's even more exciting? This is really just the beginning. The more we learn about Mindsight and neuroplasticity, the more we realize how much power we have to shape our lives.
It's like we're not just along for the ride anymore. We're behind the wheel.
Exactly. And that is an incredibly empowering thought.
It really is. So for our listeners who are feeling fired up right now, ready to bring a little more Mindsight into their lives, what's one question they can ask themselves today to get started?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say, think about a relationship in your life right now, just one, that could benefit from maybe a little more awareness, a little more of that attunement we talked about. And ask yourself, how could you show up a little differently in that dynamic?
Ooh, that is powerful. And I love that it's not about trying to fix the other person. It's about what we can bring to the table, right?
Absolutely. Because even the smallest shifts in our own awareness can create these ripple effects in our relationships.
It's true. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like we've covered so much ground. To all our listeners out there, we hope you feel inspired to explore the power of Mindsight and discover how it can really transform your life from the inside out. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.